Good afternoon. My name is Mary Loyal. I happen to be Salinas mother. And first of all, I wanted to say I thank God that I was able to come and listen to some of your comments from the homeless. And I appreciate the work you're doing, and I'm hoping that more money comes in so you can be able to do more for the homeless, because it is necessary. They're part of our community. And I wanted to step over here to tell also Dorothy what a great job you do. You know, the homeless people here that are here, because some of you have left, we have to thank also the people who are actually trying so hard to help you. And Dorothy, I have read her over and over, and I heard so many stories about Dorothy's place where she's actually doing a lot of work to help. And we have to get up and say thank you also for those who are trying so hard to help you. You know, I know that money is limited, but we can work out the money. We can try to get the city, the county to provide more money so we can do more for them. I was looking at a video the other day that someone put up on Facebook about how the homeless were living. You know, how they only had 24 hours in order to get their things together and put it in a stock room or a locker. First of all, I don't think the homeless have money to pay for a locker. Lockers are expensive. And I don't think they have money, family that are able to open doors for them. That's why they're homeless. So it's impossible to actually have them get out their things together and lock them up on a shelter or a locker. They don't have the money for that. But then I was thinking to myself, because they talk so much about the Nino coming over, the rain season coming over. This is just an idea of mine, short term. You know, that because the city does have a lot of vacant buildings. I drove around Salinas. There's so many warehouses that are empty, and there's a lot of buildings that are empty. I was just thinking that instead of getting them to throw their tents in the dumpster, throwing the tents in the dumpster, maybe what they could do is allow them to keep their tents, move them into a building to provide them from the rain, the rainy season. Provide them with mobile toilets and showers. That can be done. They've been able to provide that for the people down by Fresno who has no water. You know, the city has been able to pay for that and help them. I don't see why a city so big like Salinas that has so many people and they get so many money, especially I noticed that they get millions of money to the police department. You know, why not, instead of throwing their tents away into the dumpsters, why not move their tents into a building? And you know, I don't know if you've been to those malls where they have all the little shopping centers. You know, people, especially among the Latinos, they have the little shopping centers, and they have little malls where they provide their own, set up their own little shopping centers. You know, they have little stores. Why not provide a little space for them with their tents and provide them with mobile toilets? Meanwhile, I'm talking about short terms, and then little by little provide ways for them to move to, or also try to fix them up so they can be able to dress up and try to get a job. You know, sometimes people are not going to be able to get a job because of their record. Some people come out of jail. I worked in jail. I'm a nurse. I'm a retired nurse, and I'm also worked for the Santa Cruz County Jail for a long 20 years. And I know what it is. You know, when you come out of prison or of jail, you know, these people have no money. They have no place to move. So what happens to them? Nobody wants to give them a job, and you know it very well. They don't want to give them a job because of the history they have. Maybe they were involved with some kind of theft. They don't trust them anymore. So you have to be able to understand why these people are not able to get a job at times. So let's help them by providing a way that they can get out of the rain, temporary. You know, look around in Salinas, the county, to see. Look around to see what buildings you have that you can put tents up for them inside there. I know there's thousands of homeless right here in this county, and I know that you cannot provide help for perhaps, I think Dorothy mentioned 250, and this other gentleman mentioned 18 housing, and the veteran mentioned another 16 or 18 housing. That's not enough. We got thousands of homeless. So let's try to do something now that the rain season is coming around, and let's look for buildings, and let's provide them with tents. Why not? Why not provide them with the mobiles? So that's my idea. I think we can do a little bit better than that. Thank you so much.
Where can we go? Two speakers. Good evening. Can I really go to bed? And I don't mean just. When you go to bed tonight, think about the people that are out there. I'm out there right now. My name is Joe Gamboa. Born 1954, car, and Marqueta. I claim Marqueta Street. Some people know what that means. I claim Salinas, my little town. I worked 20-some years for county government, Monterey County Public Works. I was one of two representatives of the United States Census Bureau. The other one was Gene Cataluna. One of two representing Monterey County. Yeah, I know a lot of people. A lot of people know my name. And you have to answer a lot of questions, so I'm not going to give you any questions. Because I have some answers that later on I might meet with you. Get a hold of me through jail or jail. I'll be here for a little while. I'm in the city. And, but when I come back, all my nephews, and they were born in Salinas. They're not going home at all. They're all serving the military. One's in the Air Force right now. If he comes back and he's homeless, well, these veterans come back damaged. Please. I'll keep it personal. I will not make it public. All the veterans that have been killed on these streets in the last 20 years because they went home. One went for Laurel. He went to the abandoned home. The home was empty. He went there. He slept underneath. He stabbed a dog, and then he got killed and all that. There's another one in a bank, and all these. I grew up with these people, and I saw them killed. They served the country, came home, and died in Salinas. I'm not going to die in Salinas. But people are dying. This is like a death issue. None of you are to blame, and none of you have the answer. You can only help. We want a helping hand, not a hand out this guy for myself. Why am I homeless? It's a long story. John Steinbeck wrote that story. They kicked him out of town. He was at Spreckle Shirt with my ex-wife's grandfather, Alexander Anderson. And that's a long story. I'm finished it. Wait, have a good night. You have a lot of questions to answer, and so I'll let you go. Thank you.
Thank you. How many more speakers do we have? Come on closer, because we're running out of time. We want to give them a chance to at least make some closing comments, answer perhaps some of these questions that we're going to be here afterwards to answer individual questions too. So, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Rita Costa. I just wanted to say thank you to everybody for having us here and coming together to talk about the problems that all over Salinas. You're right, it's more than just Chinatown, it's whole Salinas. And to Don Reynolds and to Gary Reed, I want to say thank you for also acknowledging that there is more out there in Chinatown other than just homelessness. There's people with lots of problems. I want to say thank you because I always say that they always just judge us all as either drug addicts or drug dealers and stuff. So I want to say thank you for acknowledging there's other problems out there other than just homelessness. But once again, I think everybody came together and shown that you guys are taking interest. Not that you guys weren't, but more interested in what's going on. I just want to say thank you, and we do appreciate everything that you guys are doing. Thank you.
My name is Jason Pineda, and I just had a couple ideas I wanted to put out there. In terms of things that the county could maybe do with the state of emergency, I think is maybe, find some place like, the mall down here by the quad. They could just create like an encampment there and tell people to come and put their tents. If it's safe and out of a flood, like safe from flooding, just create an encampment for everyone, the homeless, to come stay to avoid the flood if we're facing danger from El Nino. Another thing that would be good is if we actually had a permanent encampment for people to go and some kind of place where we could store our things, even if it was not very high tech or fancy. I know some ideas have been done before in other places like that. Another thing too is in terms of besides that, and I don't want to be too critical, but at the warming shelter, a friend of, you know, there's certain people that, like, I'm not sure the exact thing, but if you're on parole or you're on probation, you're not allowed to stay at the warming shelter in the city, and there's people that's where they have, that's the only place that they have to go, and yet, but they can't go there. It's also kind of crowded in the warming shelter, even though there's not that many people staying there. We have to sleep really close to each other within, you know, half a foot or a foot space in between people staying there, and there's more available space. Yeah, we have to sleep confined there. That's how it was last year when I was there. And I think that's, oh, and I guess I'm just going to keep it on things, specific points. That when I was at Dorothy's a couple of weeks ago, one of the churches told me, they asked one of the volunteers that was serving with one of the churches mentioned this thing called Operation Hope, and that he was with some people that were considering trying to work with that thing, and it's like building mini houses for people to live in, and they have like a work program, and so there's people out in the community that are thinking of things, solutions to, besides just us here. And the Operation Hope thing, I've heard the people that come here and serve breakfast on Wednesdays talk about the same idea about building miniature houses for homeless people. So that's it. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Juan Martinez. I come to ask you for your support on an idea that just came up the other day, because a lot of news is going up about the El Nino and the potential harm to the property and personal belongings, that sort of thing. And I started thinking they're hunkered down for the winter, right? So the campaigns are over. The Vote for Me campaign, vote for me, vote for me, vote for me. Everybody wants their vote. They put it up on a 4x8. Plastic, heavy duty, puts up at the window. I went and got about 15, 20 of a fair amount. I used it to cover stuff that in emergency you just put it on top of stuff. But made a little thing. I said, man, this is great. How many people can we house in here? When the rain comes, you get the flapping, you get all that, the excitement going on. If you had some kind of quick thing and I'm asking you, I guess I'm sharing the idea, but I'm asking you for help. Do you guys know where I can get 4x8 sheets? Because I don't think I need a permit to go out and just offer, hey, just cover your belongings with the stuff. But I'm sure people are going to find it very reasonable to put two of them together, 8 feet long, 4 feet high. You got a teepee, plastic, that can keep you from that storm that's coming in on you right here, right now. It's real, it's cold, it's wet, and you're in a flapping thing. Why not have it that, and you can take it down, because it's recyclable. You can haul it off somewhere else. And it could be all uniform, because one side of it, most of them happen to be white, but you can paint them the color if you want. Anyway, I don't want people to name my time. Thank you. I appreciate any of your help with getting the material. Because right now we're trying to hustle the material. A couple of people in here are already helping out with the idea. And if you guys out there, anybody else, if you can get campaign material, you know, people, let's find a place to put it together and maybe just drop it off to people. They'll put their own little things. We already see what they do with their creativity. So God bless you all.
Good evening. I'm Jerry Landsman, a citizen of Salinas. I'll just keep it short and quick. I think that it shouldn't be illegal for landlords to discriminate anyone with a Section 8 voucher. If your sexual orientation or you have children or all kinds of reasons, it's not legal to discriminate against someone. Section 8 housing voucher should be good as cash. Shouldn't even be allowed to ask how you're paying for your apartment. So I don't know if the state has authority to work on something that's a federal issue. The other is that the Travelers Inn Motel property on Monterey Street in Salinas seems to be underutilized, almost vacant. It'd be nice to see the city lease or purchase that property and make homeless housing there. Thank you. Good night.
Hackett. I'm a lifelong Salinas resident and a local business owner my whole entrepreneurial career. I've been very supportive of working with the homeless issue through Sacred Heart Church. We do the monthly breakfast. Many of the people in here know me from the Christmas dinner that my family has done for the past 17 years. And this is thankless. So this is just a random thought I've come up with today, and I've been speaking with Alejo and some of the other staff in here. And I'm in the nursery business, and my nurseries have been heavily impacted by the drought. I've lost some tenants that I've had for 15 years. I've been approached by people from as far as Colorado to New York, wherever, to come to our county to go into the cannabis industry. It's the hottest topic in Monterey County, all the cities in our county. And I've sat back and listened. I've been very blessed here in this area as an entrepreneur. As we all know, the Salinas Valley is a cornucopia of wealth for everything, from produce to land and whatnot. And I just came from a meeting listening to all these people wanting these permits. It's a frenzy to be able to grow, sell, and process cannabis in our town, in our county. So I've been watching Louise. I've walked all the homeless camps. I've dealt with these people for many years, and I thought about it. And I thought, of all these greedy people coming into our community, wanting to profit from our ag technology that's been here, strawberries, raspberries, everything, I thought I would like to join in a partnership with Luis Jose, Monterey County, the city of Salinas, turn my nurseries into a cannabis growing facility, employ homeless people that need jobs, but besides paying our taxes, I'm willing to commit a set percent of our profits to fund a homeless shelter, to fund drug prevention. We're all talking about how to lead here, and we know that we've walked all these streets and seen all these deals. What percentage of people in these homeless camps are people that are down and out, lost their jobs, can't get a foot up, and what percentage have drug or alcohol problems and need help? Let's take a fixed percentage of this revenue, build shelters, build counseling, build drug prevention programs to help our community. So I'm open to that. I would like to work with Luis here. He's been a great champion of my ventures here. And I would be willing to commit to fund that program with a percentage of the profits from a facility like that. Thank you.
Thank you to all those who are still here. Thank you for your patience and your really respectful dialogue and input. But like I said, this is not the only time. We hope to keep this conversation going, but we are already almost 7:30. We want to give some very brief comments, maybe some quick answers for some of the questions that people posed here tonight. We'll just start with Jeff and then move it on that.
Yeah, my name is Van Gresham, and I basically have a question directed to Gary Peterson and Don Reynolds and the city in general. And my question, there's a couple of things that I'd like to know a little bit more about. And one might be the power that you talk about in Chinatown. I'm going to be curious to know where that's coming from. Typically, the homeless population is a very passive community. They typically are the underdog. They typically only want to provide for themselves and find as much human comfort as they can scrounge and put together from the pieces that they salvage. I'm very worried for the people that are down there, and they're very worried about themselves. I think I think maybe they've been backed into a corner over a period of time where their encampments and their abilities to provide for themselves have slowly been eroded away, and they can push further and further back into the back of the cage, so to speak. And I think they're worried, and I'd like to hear more about what you say regarding the property issues and how this new ordinance is basically just for the emergency type situations. Because I can understand in an emergency situation getting somebody out of a drainage ditch and getting them to the high ground. But Chinatown is the high ground that we typically hold, have less chance of getting swamped in Chinatown than anywhere else in the county. Further, things have changed, as you said. We have a community care crew that goes out through the neighborhood and actually picks up trash and makes it presentable. Two, and now we have a bathroom that we can use, which alleviates a lot of the human waste that in years past had absolutely nowhere to go. But now that's being addressed, and that presents a better situation. I'd just like to know, or have some faith that come December the 1st, when you come out with your plans for Chinatown, if truly you consider it a dangerous situation, typically the biggest danger is from access from cars and things like that. Typically Chinatown can be restricted, and typically the sidewalks could be opened up. And the land that the city has claimed could be reused for possibilities of tent shelters. And also combined efforts could actually fund in other buildings throughout the city, similar places where people could assemble and stay. But it's more than just having a place somewhere in the county that someone can go. We need transportation. These people from Chinatown they're broken down. They're wheelchairs. They're walk around with canes. Transportation would be absolutely necessary, not only to get to the shelter to spend the night, but be able to get back to take advantage of the services that are offered there during the day. So I just on the property issue one more time, the actions of the county or the city seem to indicate that our property that we hold and need for survival down there is not being respected. And recently at Sherwood Park, even just the homeless people that came to the park to enjoy the day had their things taken and thrown into a dumpster, even though they weren't spending the night there. And that just seems to me like to be an attack on the homeless. And I'd like to hear something that would give me faith that you would respect the property of the people down there and allow them some opportunity to be able to provide for themselves.
Okay, 6:30, last comment here.
Well, I would just like to thank you, Assemblymember Luis Alejo, for hosting this event, the Methodist Church, your staff, everyone. This is really awesome. The constellation of people that you have together tonight is fantastic and very refreshing from some of the other meetings that I've been to lately. I also would like to thank the individuals who came up to the mic and bared their souls for us and really put the face of these struggles in our hearts in a very deep way. I know that's hard to do, and we're doing the best we can. I wish we could do more, and we're going to keep working on this. But thank you so much for being brave and sharing your personal stories with us. Thank you.
I too, and you know, as representative of Dorothy's Place, thank the First United Methodist Church for making this a forum for the public once again, and thank Assemblymember Alejo's office for inviting us all here. And I think this has turned into a pretty meaningful exercise. But I know you want to hear us address the questions and the issues that you brought up, and I'm frankly feeling fairly inadequate to that task. It's very difficult to address these issues because you're pointing out a lot of gaps in our system, a lot of the reason that you're not receiving what you feel that you need. And I wish I could give you more positive news about that. But let me just talk about a couple of things. First of all, you ladies that came to the microphone and talked about what you needed to house yourself and house your family. So I'm talking about the two ladies in red over here, the lady back here with the two daughters in green, and Mrs. Taylor over here. Please do talk to Mr. Bonilla here with Community Housing Solutions. They are the experts in housing here in the local area, but I know you're also receiving services from Women Alive in Dorothy's Place. I'm going to stay after the meeting. Please also talk to me. We can't house you permanently, but we can help you navigate the system. We can better help you navigate the system. And now that we've brought attention again to some of these gaps, maybe some of our partners here at the table can help out with this. We want to give it a try. And I made a note here and I need to really quickly reference it. The gentleman in the orange t-shirt, which I don't see, he was sitting over here before, but he was actually talking about employment opportunities, and the gap that he was bringing up, although he didn't articulate this, was we have a great CalWorks program, but CalWorks is geared to help families, because families with children are the priority in our community. I think we all understand that. But we also need to help adults that need to get jobs. And we need to be able to accommodate people with disabilities that can't work a full-time job, but maybe they can work a part-time job or some sort of a job that accommodates them. I too believe that that needs to be a huge priority. And again, you know, my views on Chinatown. I see this a lot in Chinatown. So I would just like to kind of foot stomp that and say to the people with the wherewithal in the public sector that can help us with some focused workforce development for adults that need to work. We'd like to be a partner with that. We'd like to bring a focus on that and cherish everybody's desire to actually work, even if they can't do something full-time, to actually work and preserve their dignity and give themselves a purpose in life by working. I think that's really super important. Thank you.
First of all, I'd like to thank the public for being here tonight, taking your time to address some issues. I jotted down some good suggestions and comments. One of them was specific for families with children, and that is a big concern because here in emergency shelters, if you have a family, say a single mom, and she has a 15-year-old son, well, if he's too big, if he's a 6'4" child, then what happens? The child can't stay with the family. So it's all about trying to keep the families together, and that's one of the goals that we have at Veterans Transition Center. We don't care if the child is 16, 17, or 18. They still stay together with the family. That's in our transitional housing. Housing in the marina, that's not being utilized. Also, we are working with the city, and we've got some funding to renovate those buildings and make them into permanent housing for our veterans. The cost of living in the peninsula is much more expensive than in Salinas. I know Elliot mentioned some amounts for a single one-bedroom, 1180, two-bedroom, 1500. Unfortunately, under the Section 8 or the HUD voucher, that's what we have to work with right now. But Monterey County is one of the most expensive counties in the state, and we just have to work with those numbers. A lot of good ideas, 9,000 square foot for 50 cents a square foot. That's a very reasonable, actually real cheap rate. Something we can convert to into a shelter. So kind of brainstorm those ideas and using them so that we could better serve our population and come up with better programs. So I thank everyone in attendance.
I just want to echo the thanks for everyone who took the time to be here tonight. It's useful to have dialogue, it's useful to share ideas, and it's useful to know what is actually happening in the community. So thank you for hosting this evening. I jotted down just a couple questions that I think I can shed light on. One, in terms of employment programs, the largest employment program that is there for families really is through the CalWorks program. And that's actually very, very robust for low-income families with children and very low-income families with children. I know one individual who had Social Security, who I'm guessing is income ineligible for the program, which I think is absolutely unfortunate, and we're stuck in a regulatory environment, to speak like a bureaucrat, which I am. So that is a challenge, and also when you get to some of the CalFresh regulations, I know the state has
done a few great things over the past few years. In CalWorks, they've actually funded a subsidized employment program. So we can help people be in that world. The state also, for CalFresh, put the resources in to give a standard utility allowance to homeless people, but it doesn't address what, that you don't get the shelter deduction. Right. So, and the feds fought tooth and nail even for the standard, against the standard utility allowance change in the CalFresh program. So, I guess the best I can say is I'm sorry.
I was bringing it up so that other people would be aware of it, because I hit every wall there was.
It's such a challenge.
Charlotte, if you make an income of $2,000 now, if you have earnings of $2,000 now, you qualify. If you can find a company, because some of the volunteers in Nectividad, where I have done volunteer work, are actually on CalPERS. Once the employee hires you, allows you to work, CalPERS pay you like if you were a volunteer. So the qualification is that you make $2,000 down. I just wanted to inform you that.
So there are several other employment programs out there. There's the One Stop Career Center, which has changed its name to America's Job Centers of California, and also Shoreline, the Center for Employment Training. So there are a host of employment programs that are out there, but actually, I just want to say some of the big heroes in employment services for homeless people are homeless services providers that often do have relationships with the people they're serving that turn into employment relationships. Question on the declaration of emergency. The board did not take a position on a declaration of emergency per se, but our motel voucher program does kick into effect whenever it's cold, so 45 degrees and below, and wet, so raining. So if it's forecast, then that's something that our shelter providers have opportunity to take advantage of, with the goal that because people don't always seek shelter, with any number of circumstances. I know I've spoken with Ms. Acosta about pets, and that's a challenge, and people have hard choices to make, and I understand that.
Motel 666 in the...
But the idea is that first go to a shelter. First make sure they can use one of the shelter resources, because we do have risk that we could lose that one emergency resource. And the final thing is, in the event of a real disaster, the Office of Emergency Services does have the relationships with the Red Cross and the schools to open up more robust shelters. So if there is flooding, that's a whole separate arm of processes that came into place. And finally, I believe one of my staff people talked to the individual with a young child, because anything we can do to encourage people to enroll in CalWorks if they have children, that's something that I'd like to encourage. I know for undocumented families that can often be very difficult. I just want to put it out there. Medi-Cal and CalFresh does not impact public charge. So if your children are here legally, that's a program that's open for CalWorks. Can be a more complicated issue, but I would just encourage anyone, for your children, take advantage of those resources. They're very, very important.
Okay. Thank you. Let's see. Everybody that had questions for me, including Dan and including the gentleman down here, all seem to know where to find me. They've all been in my office. You're always welcome to come and speak with me. Everything has changed at Sherwood Hall since the high school went in, so it's a very different environment. We do not, and the city has never sanctioned camping. It was a temporary offer at one time, but was rejected by the proposed users. So that's as far as it ever went. It's not there, man. You can come and talk to me anytime. You know that. The other thing I just want to say is that from all of history and all of time and all of humanity, we speak to each other by sharing our stories, and that when they come from a place of truth, we cannot help but be moved. So thank you very much.
I'll be real brief. As I said before in my presentation, we're trying to move from shelters, from transition housing to permanent solutions, and so we strongly believe that the days of shelters, especially funding, has been so difficult that if you look at state funding for shelters throughout the state, it has been limited. State ESG used to fund us, and it's just reduced so much. So we have a policy agenda that we're drafting. We'd like to sit with Assemblyman Alejo and his staff. We've had a lot of experience in doing that. We believe strongly that the key areas is permanency, and affordable housing in this area would be one of the key solutions. The last thing I'll say is that we have things in place already that we want to expand. I don't believe that we should start, new. There's already things in place that we're willing to with city, county, and then business people like Mr. Hackett. That if we really want to hit or impact the homeless issue, then I strongly believe the private sector has a big role in it. There's a lot of things that they say, they complain about homeless, but they're not stepping up where they should be. And in fact, I am grateful that Mr. Hackett was here. I wish more people, the Salinas Business Association would be here and willing to do exactly the same thing that Mr. Hackett. So my hat's off to him as he's working with Assemblyman Alejo and other local government leaders. So again, Ali, you're doing a phenomenal job. Gary, Don, and a lot of the work that we do, and I'm sure with other homeless providers. So we're trying to do everything we can. We know there's limited resources, but we need to be very creative in how we're going to resolve some of these issues. Thank you.
Well, I want to thank you all for joining us for this forum, but I personally know that just like my staff are doing most of the work when I'm up in Sacramento. Same with the city council. These are the folks actually do the work day in, day out. They hear from the community, they see what the issues are, they go out to the different sites, they talk to those residents who are impacted by homelessness. For me, these are the real people who get the work done, and they make recommendations to the council and policy, so that's also important too. So we're hoping that in the future, just like I went and walked in Chinatown, and I want to visit some of the other places, we hope to bring some other policymakers along with us. Bring other council members, bring some school board members, bring some planning commissioners from the city and county, because as they make decisions and when they meet the people, first of all, talk about human beings, talk about people, and once you meet them and you hear their stories, you have a whole different perception than just driving by a certain part of town and having a misperception. And so I think we need to keep doing those kinds of visits, bring people to meet the people who are living there, hear their stories, understand what their needs are, so then we make them champions to work with us on this issue also. So I want to thank you all for coming here tonight. I really appreciate it. Give one last round of applause for our panelists, everybody. Thank you, and have a good night. And we're here to answer any questions.